This is Ditch Diggers, episode 16 in season 7.
Ditch Diggers here, and ain't no wannabes here, with some not so nice advice for your writing career. To be clear, no punches will be pulled, but the punch may be spiked how they like before they get on the mic. To my left we got the mighty Mer Lafferty, and if I piss her off, believe me, she'll come after me. And her co-host Matt Wallace on the right. Yes, she may be half as hype as she can take him in a fight. So settle in, folks, buckle in and boot up. Time to meddle in a way to make your writer shut up. It's hard work, but the perk is that it's fun and exciting. Facebook will still be there when you're done writing. Ditch Diggers! Ditch Diggers!
And today with me, who is not Matt, I have Alasdair Stuart, who is our Moxie. Last week, like several weeks into this whole thing, Matt came up with the fact that Matt proxies are Moxies. And I'm thinking, you couldn't have done that in April? So, yeah. So, Matt, so now we have Alasdair Stuart back again. Thank you so much for giving us your time and your wisdom, Alasdair. Al is the Hugo Award nominated nonfiction fan writer, writer of a Hugo nominated fanzine, which is why you're fan writer nominated, but it's two different things. And yeah, you just nominated for half of the ones this year, and owner and co-owner of Escape Pod and all the other podcast magazines. And what else am I missing, Alasdair? You wear more hats than I do, and that's something.
Okay, I do bits and pieces of RPG writing for people who actually pay, and I also do occasional bits of journalism for folks who aren't me. But pretty much everything you covered is the majority of the work these days.
Great. And we have had Dog Cam demanded early on. So here's Dog Cam. Damn it, I changed this. I had this all set so that you wouldn't see any of this crap. You just see the dog, but apparently it didn't save, so there's Dog Cam for you.
Observe the dog.
Let's see, and let's say hi to people in chat, because people are chatting. Starry Green chat. Is here. Professor Nicteris is here. Underpope is here. Jasmine is here. Thank you, Jasmine, for the marketing comment. I've been meaning to do that for quite some time. Anne is here. Tasha's here. Sybil Rose. Will is here. Glad you could make it, Will. Jasmine says you have Moxie and are one yourself.
Oh.
Underpope is arguing, saying if your shirt says you're Matt Wallace, because, as Meerkat says, your shirt wouldn't lie to us.
Were I wearing the shirt that says I am Cameron Hurley, we would be having a different version of that conversation.
That's true. And Numbers Ninja is here as our awesome moderator. And, let's see. Wow, just all the chatty. I love it. It's hard to keep up. And you are welcome to share some good news here. Would love to hear it. Just to let you know, my yay button is not hooked up to this specific set of scenes, so the yay button will have to be virtual. But please, let us know if you have good news. I love it.
Hell yeah.
Hey, Todd, how are you? Okay, caught up with chat. Excellent. So while we wait for Anne to give us good news, Alasdair, what have you been up to lately? What's on your plate right now? Since we just talked about the fact that you are all of the freelancers in the world.
A couple of things actually. Today, I've spent some time doing first-pass edits on a non-fiction book that I can't quite talk about. It's for a company that I've worked for before, and they do deep dive critical analyses of classic genre television.
Ooh, that's neat.
Yeah, and I had a lot of fun with the last one of these I did. And this is a property which is kind of brand new to them. So I did that thing I sometimes do where I'm like, I should do this. It's complex and difficult, and I'll be really good at it. And for once, my brain did not 3 months later go, are you? It actually went quite well. Although I did have a great comment in the editorial meeting I had on Sunday where we got to something and I was like, yeah, this metaphor turned up halfway through the writing process. And the editor just looked at me straight down the barrel of Zoom and went, oh, I know. So that's going well, and I'm going to get that turned around by the end of July. There'll probably be another edit pass on it then, but by and large, it's quite done. There's a couple of things that need to be moved around, but not much. And I'm also doing some work on the next and I believe final supplement for After the War, the RPG that Jason, Peter, and I and a bunch of amazingly talented other folks designed a couple of years ago. And love that world. I have very big plans for that world. And Jason has given me some really fun stuff to do. I get to design a couple of new alien races, and I get to bolt some more stuff into the incredibly obtuse history that I managed to invent that starts off with things like the WoW signal from Arecibo and goes thousands of years backwards and a few thousand years forwards, and things like finding huge kinetic kill vehicles parked under the plane of the ecliptic of the solar system, almost like something really awful blew through settled space thousands of years ago, and the survivors rigged booby traps for it lest it return, which it did. It's a really fun world. I really enjoy playing with it. So that's going on. This week's Full Lid, the pop culture newsletter that I write, and which is edited by the amazing Marguerite, who is my partner in all things, and I love more than life itself. So far,
is that her official title?
Her checkbook's really long.
Yeah.
Let's just leave it at that.
Okay.
Has so far looks like it's going to be a review of the crime debut of a very good friend of mine, Jen Williams, which is in this country is called Dog Rose Dirt, and in the US is called A Dark and Secret Place. And in both places will scare the bejesus out of you.
Okay.
It is that rarest of beasts. It is a crime novel about a serial killer who murders women, written by a woman who brooks absolutely no romance of the serial killer bullshit. There is a moment in there which is basically Ted Bundy, yeah, fuck him, which is brilliant. So there's that, and there's also hopefully going to be a piece about the Forever Purge, which I saw last week, and which, because my brain both loves and hates me, I managed to tie to the arrival of Freedom Day in the UK. For those of you in the US who are unfamiliar with what Freedom Day is, Freedom Day was Monday, and Freedom Day is what happens when your criminally incompetent, bigoted, hypocrite government decides that they really can't be bothered dealing with COVID-19 any longer. So they're just going to turn all the restrictions off. Not everybody is fully vaccinated. The borders are functionally open. Nightclubs, bars, it's all open. You don't have to wear masks anywhere anymore. And I am very heartened by how many people have gone, no, and still are.
Yeah.
But that was just the latest in the long line of difficult to deal with bullshit nonsense that the last 2 years have handed all of us. And it actually dovetailed really interestingly with the Forever Purge, which is for now the final movie, and how that deals with this awful thing inflicted on the populace by the government and how it finds hope within that. So if I can land that piece, that's going to be really impressive. And if I can't land that piece, then I'm just going to try.
Or try again next week, because not everything we make is going to be... It's going to land.
Exactly. Or just try again next week.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my week so far.
Wow, excellent. We have Anne's good news. I'm taking an editing and proofreading course with the Chicago Manual Style course. Oh, not right. And I've passed the previous 5 lessons out of 16. That sounds like
good
a lot
job,
of work.
Man. Hell yeah.
A lot of work and a lot of payback. That's really awesome. Because that stuff's not easy. I remember the Chicago Manual Style. It's rough.
Also, you could successfully club a humpback whale to at least unconsciousness with it by carefully putting it in a sock. I mean, I'm not saying you should go hunt crustaceans with the Chicago crustacean cephalopods with a Chicago style guide in a sock. I'm saying if you were called upon to do that, you have that option.
True. and got first Moderna vaccine. Welcome to the Dolly Parton Club, and very glad to see you're on your way to becoming immortal, which is what I like to think I am. Even though, I still wear my mask because I know I'm not immortal.
Yeah, but that way you can also fool other people. They'll be like, what is she thinking?
Yeah.
What is the plan?
So the one thing I wanted to talk to you about is, while you do wear many, many hats, I wanted to focus, as a nonfiction writer, you have your eyes open to all the stuff, good and bad, that's happening in writing and science fiction at large. And I have only the information I have as a co-editor of Escape Pod. So I was wondering where you thought publishing was going around this time, including topics that were inspired by last year's trip to hell, and whether people should write to the market, whether it's too soon, whether you should follow the advice to just continue writing what inspires you. What would you say?
I think I can answer this on two fronts: one personal, one professional. I think from a professional point of view, this is a great question, by the way. And from a professional point of view, this is tied into the fact that all fiction is inherently political, and because all art is inherently political, because you can't separate art from the time within which it's created, and the time within which it's created is influenced by the political situation in which it is created. It will change, and that often leads, and your perception of it will change, but the art won't. And that leads to some really, really interesting situations. I was listening to a very popular nerdcore rapper the other day whilst I was doing the washing up, and I have an awful lot of time for him, and very little time these days for his early songs, almost all of which are complaining about how little sex he has. And,
oh, God.
Yes, and this is a guy who's a good chance a lot of your audience may own albums by. I am genuinely a fan, but those early albums are not going to get picked up again anytime soon. So, there's stuff like that. There's stuff like the very unusual feeling you get when you look at a cultural event from the outside that you live through. We watched an episode of This Is Pop on Netflix last night, which is a really good show about the series of documentaries about the history of pop music. The one presented by Orville Peck about the gay and person of color revolution in country music is amazingly good, and I heartily recommend. The Britpop one is less so, largely because all the central personalities in it are still so awful and so egotistical that none of them would talk to them. So it was very interesting to look at the things that they talked about and the things they did. And it was more interesting to look back at a period of time in the UK where what was referred to as lad culture was prevalent. Lad culture being go out, get drunk, have a fight, play some football, come back, fall over. I finished growing up in this, and it was, I believe the technical term is, nightmarish. And it was nightmarish for a 6'2" straight white dude. So, I did not usually have to put my keys through my fingers walking home just in case. I had friends who did. I actually got into debt making sure that the all-female tabletop RPG group I had in college took taxis home, because the campus abutted onto an area that people would get drunk and have fights and fall over. And that's kind of my point about politics and art. It all happens of a piece. It's all connected. And as a result, I think what you're seeing at the moment is a transitional period. You're seeing people start to react to the last couple of years. And I mean, as you will know, publishing works on geological timescales. 2.5 years is now. So we're just about to start seeing these books coming out. And there's already some indication, I think, of how these things are trying to be dealt with. And interestingly, we see those approaches in media that moves a little bit faster. There is a Michael Bay produced movie called Songbird, which was produced during the early months of the initial pandemic. And it is set 3 years in the future when COVID-19 has become COVID-24. And some people are immune and everyone else is permanently locked in their house. And immune couriers carry goods between people. It's a fascinating movie. Note, at no point in the next 5 minutes will I say it is a good movie, because it's not. But it is a film that directly addresses the pandemic in a way nothing else has. And it guesses at an awful lot of stuff. I mean, there is repeated reference to a containment camp for the infected in Los Angeles, which is clearly the thing the budget couldn't stretch to, because it's continually just off screen. There is the most interesting plot thread is a character who was literally this close to becoming a constructed YouTube viral sensation when the outbreak hit. And now she's got nothing. So a lot of the movie is about how she tries to get by. And it directly addresses and interacts with what life was like at that time for some people and what everyone thought life was going to be like. And it's a very interesting failure. It has a ridiculous cast: Demi Moore, Bradley Whitford, KJ Apa, Alexandra Daddario.
Wait, they had the budget for that and not the budget for containment camp?
I can only assume Bradley Whitford needed his Oreos. And frankly, if Josh needs his Oreos, Josh gets his Oreos.
Okay.
You know? But it is the first piece of genuine pandemic, post or semi-post-pandemic fiction I've seen. And it won't be the last. There'll be a lot more to come, I'm quite sure. And I mean, in publishing, what you're starting to see is an awful lot of the sites of record, if you will, starting to look at work that's already extant and talking about it as means of understanding what we're all going through. You know, I have there's an interesting article I dug up from Penguin Random House, actually, about some of the books they publish about epidemics, which covers everything from the opioid crisis through to Emily St. John Mandel's superb Station 11, which is fantastic and speaks directly to this kind of situation. So I think, to circle back around and kind of bring the plane of answers into land, this kind of thing is something which genre fiction always talks about to some degree. But what we are about to see, I would guess, is it talking about things with far more specificity and far more uncertainty and experimentation, because this isn't over. This is not going to be over for another year or so.
Yeah.
So, you know, there is that awful kind of when do you go problem. When do you release something that's relevant? Do you wait too long and it becomes irrelevant? Do you go too early and it doesn't land? I mean, I've read a couple of pieces in the early days of the pandemic about authors having to change their books on the fly. You know, someone said, I have lots of scenes of people in pubs and I'm having to write about how they all have masks on now. So what you're seeing, or what you're about to see, is almost a fiction space version of the early days of the pandemic. It's about to hit and spread. And we're about to see how fiction reacts to it in much the same way we saw the real world react to it. And that's going to be quite stressful, because it was pretty stressful in the real world. And I think the good publishing companies, the ethical ones, are going to be the ones who are ready for that.
So here's my question, and I hate to say this, but this is a truism about publishing, which is your devastating life of divorce and alcoholism and rock bottom is, of course, a very powerful story, but the publishers heard it. That's not the kind of memoir they're going to buy, because they have heard it. When they get deluged with a bunch of either pandemic or lockdown or whatever stories, I don't know where my question's going. I guess I'm just worried that what you think is and what you write might be brilliant. It might be hard-hitting and amazing, but if it's just like all the others, because this is one of those very few things that almost everybody in the world experienced in some way or another. Even if you're just like eyes closed and denying the whole thing, your life was affected by it. So coming up with unique stories from this thing that we all experienced, it's got to be a challenge, isn't it?
Massively so. And it's been really interesting to see the early indications of that. I forget who wrote it, but The Pandemic Gone Girl is going to come out in about 2 months, if it isn't already. A woman has an affair with husband of best friend or husband of nearby roommate in an apartment building. He dies. She sees who kills him, but she's in the apartment and she's not allowed to be due to social distancing rules. How does she solve the murder?
Is this a book you know of, or are you?
Yes, that's definitely coming out. That's being written.
Interesting.
Yes, so you're absolutely going to see that kind of thing coming out. The other kind of flip side to that is you're also going to see exactly the same stories we've always seen, just with a COVID-19 filter over the top. It's time for a confession. I am very fond of a TV show called 911 Emergency Response, which is demented, frankly. The very first episode of it I saw had a kid in a runaway sports car being stopped by him literally being run over, a kidnapped woman who had given birth, and the baby had then been kidnapped by somebody else, and I believe someone being impaled on some railings in the first 20 minutes. Future episodes include, it also has a spin-off set in Austin, which looks an awful lot like California because Rob Lowe, the star, won't move. The spin-off deals with an active volcano under Austin in one episode. I'm not joking. A crossbow sniper in another. And there's also a mudslide and a tidal wave, although not at the same time in the original show. Now, This thing is a puppy of a TV show. It's very excited and has too many legs and has a lot of feelings. And it's usually awful and it's occasionally great. And they've actually done a lot of really good work tackling the pandemic head on. The first episode of season 4, and they're, like everyone, their most recent season was very quickly curtailed by the outbreak, is pretty much all Zoom calls. And you see, as the show develops, everyone's wearing masks unless there's 2 or 3 people in the scene, so you don't have to worry too much about that. See the same thing with Leverage Redemption. That is very, very beautifully and carefully shot, and it takes a while to realize that a lot of the time it's either the main characters who are obviously being housed together in a bubble to minimize the risk of infection, I would guess, or one main character and one other person with extras in the distance.
I don't think I noticed that. Good eye, Al. This is why he's nominated for the Hugo.
There's a distinctly... It's not bad. It is interesting. There's a Netflix science fiction movie called Awake, where it really popped for me, where the primary cast really is 4 people in a car. And at one point there's a hostage standoff, and you don't see the hostage and the hostage taker in the same shot. And all the other extras are 150 meters back.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Gosh, where do we go from here?
We maybe talk about the fact that this type of thing has happened before or is happening in other subtle ways. I mean, there's a lot of Brexit fiction. Mm-hmm. Most of it being spoken by the government. Ugly weeping. Simple crash.
Yes.
But there's things like, where is it? I have this on a tab. I'm just pulling it up. Everything Belongs to the Future by Laurie Penny is distinctly Brexit-esque in its exploration of the collision between class and reality on this tiny, miserable, sun-baked island. And Chris Beckett's been doing really interesting stuff looking at this. You're starting to see some exploration of it, strangely enough, in comics. Excalibur, at the moment, the Marvel comic about the British super team. One of the driving plots right now is that the X-Men have established a nation in the Marvel Universe now called Krakoa. And, of course, Excalibur go there because it's a nation for all mutant kind. Britain has just Brexited from its treaty with Krakoa. So the Excalibur team must now work out how to operate as Britain's primary defenders when they don't have access to their resources.
Yeah.
So you're starting to see it pop up more and more. And the interesting thing is, it doesn't feel like a tidal wave. It feels like a tide. It feels like you're starting to see more and more stories dealing with this in various different ways, but not dealing with it as the kind of head-on personal narratives, which I would look to prose to provide, but dealing with it as this is how the world is at the moment, and this is how we're processing it. That next season of Doctor Who is going to be especially interesting for that, I think.
Yeah. So there's the everlasting question, which is really frustrating because agents will tell you not to write to the market, and then in the next breath they will tell you, does anybody have a good vampire stock car racing novel? That's what I'd really love to represent. And so if someone's thinking, I've got a couple of ideas for a novel, should I go for the one that echoes 2020, or should I just stay the hell away?
Something which Mira and I both have in common is that sometimes I have to work on the project that itches, not the project that's in front of us.
Yeah.
And you'll find that with a lot of artists, a lot of creatives across multiple disciplines and fields. And I think that's the best possible answer for a situation like that. If the Brexit story or the dystopian pandemic science fiction novel, hell, I would love to see a utopian post-pandemic novel. That would be amazing. Speaks to you, or the short story speaks to you, or the movie or the comic or whatever speaks to you. Write it. Write it for two reasons. Firstly, it will get it out of your head and it will free up other space. And secondly, and this is very important at the moment, this is something which my own personal journey is teaching me an awful lot, it will help you. I'm always very reluctant to talk about this stuff because, anytime we do public stuff like this, it's very tempting to just be kind of cheery and jolly and hooray, let's do things, which God knows we all fucking need. But
yeah,
we are still in perhaps the back third, but certainly still in a global nightmare. You are, chances are, stressed and frightened, not just about you, but about your friends and other people in ways which you don't see until you do. And at times like that, kindness to yourself is both impossible, or seems that way, and absolutely essential. If it's going to make you feel better writing about this, if it's going to give it edges, if it's going to give you a sense of control, do it. Because I promise the sense of victory you'll get by being able to go, that is my fear that I have calcified and put in that 8,000 word box. Maybe someone's going to give me some money for it, and even if they don't, it doesn't matter because that little shit is out of my brain in that format. There is no feeling like that on Earth.
Yeah.
And we all deserve that feeling.
Yeah. True. Going to chat, Professor Nicteris says, that's incredible. I usually don't watch with an analytical eye. Going back to you spotting which shows were filmed during lockdown. And Meerkat says, I've been getting into writing a whole lot more in the last couple of years as a form of catharsis.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
I still like writing as an escape. I don't like working through my issues in writing because that'll just make me angrier or more upset. I don't get that feeling of purging, catharsis, all that stuff. So I still try to get a little happy, but it's not always easy.
You get a lot happy. And my point about art representing politics, or reflecting politics and politics influencing art, happens with that as well. Even you'll find the catharsis, you'll find you're writing about this stuff without being consciously aware of it a lot of the time, simply because your perspective is altered and shifted by it. Other times you'll find you are consciously aware of it. I mean, I'm 3 weeks into using a CPAP machine, having received a sleep apnea diagnosis a little while ago. And I have the top 10% of my brain back for the first time in, I would guess, at least a year. And it was a very difficult process. Not in terms of getting the diagnosis and getting the machine. The diagnosis was a 6-month slog through a couple of appointments, and getting the machine was a really nice conversation with a nice lady who went, here's your sleep bot, love, here's how it works. Accepting that that wasn't a failure of me was something that was very difficult.
Yeah.
And I completely accept that it is not a failure of me. It is an issue with my body which I need to address. And by ignoring that issue, I was doing myself damage. So by addressing it, I've done a good thing. Which, much like Fezzik in The Princess Bride, I promise I won't let go to my head. But the point is, you have to deal with stuff head on sometimes. And sometimes, if you're lucky, you can sidle up to it and deal with it through metaphor and simile, because that's what we do. But it will always end up coming out, and it will always eventually help you feel better when you do.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you're getting the help and the sleep that you need, dude.
Oh, God, me too.
That's a good healthy thing.
My read is at times perhaps less happy, given that that top 10% of my brain on Saturday decided that the best possible thing it could do is point out that, firstly, the rhyme scheme in War Pigs by Black Sabbath is dreadful. The first 2 lines are both used to rhyme the word masses with itself. And secondly, that those lines become inherently hilarious the moment they are sung by Eric Cartman, as many songs do.
Yeah.
And somehow this was rendered down into the fact that by early afternoon, periodically, I would just be sitting on my computer and I go, method! And she'd look at me and I go, method! And she would just go, please stop. And I would. Anyway, let's talk about books.
I'm like, I'm not sure where that one was going to go. We got a couple of new people in chat. We got Diva Spice and Southpaw. Welcome. Ocean.
Hey, folks.
Emotion. I hear a lot of emotions for Shovel Talk. Well, that's
actually, just before we went on air, we discussed what the show would be like if it was based in the UK. And I believe we settled on hello and welcome to Dirt Butlers.
Yes, the Dirt Butlers. Actually, I like that better. Do you think Matt will will agree to a name change?
I can just hear that. Welcome to Dirt Butlers. What? Place smells Englishy.
Yeah.
Crumpets and such.
Hooray for addressing your sleep apnea, says Southpaw.
Thank you.
And getting a CPAP saved my brain and my marriage. And also,
Good
Todd
job.
says, getting my sleep apnea noticed and treated was the best thing that happened to me. Go Al. So, lots of support in the chat for you. That's awesome.
Thank you, folks.
I don't think I've said this on a stream yet, and if I have, I apologize, but I finally got a title for my book. And this has to do with ditch digging
it's
because
so good.
Sometimes you can't agree on the title. With a traditional publishing deal, one thing that you're giving up for that money is control. And marketing and or my editor weren't crazy about my titles, the many titles I sent. And so we just decided to wait until it was time. The final draft was in and we could give to marketing and they could talk about it. And then it took a while to get to the final draft. Some of that was my fault. Most of it was my fault. Some of it was COVID. Come on. But It's like my book had gone untitled forever. And I even did a thing where I've got song lyrics in the book. And when I sent the people, they're from Clipping and the Garages, the Baseball fan group. Sorry. And when I sent them the releases, I had to say, I'll be using this line in my book titled, and then I had to put Untitled Murder Space Book because that's what I finally settled on, the working title. Because it says exactly what it is and the problem I'm having. It's untitled and it's a murder space book. So, it was like, the guys in clipping know me, so they know that I'm not kidding, or just, like, being ridiculous by saying, hey, can I use your music in my book that's untitled? But I was a little worried about the other one, but that at least got accepted. But,
Tell them the title, though. Can you tell them the title?
Yes, I'm sorry. The title is Station Eternity, Book 1 of the Midsolar Murders. So
yes.
the pun that my friend came up with actually made it in to become the series title. And we just went for a simple title. And since the murder is in the...
Space.
Well, yes, the murder's in space. I meant the murder is in the series title, so we don't have to put the murder in the book title. So the book says space and the series says murder. So that's what I got, and I'm just very relieved to be able to say that now. It's
feels like you've got a hold of it, doesn't it?
Yeah. And it's on the schedule now as next fall. I do have a month, but I don't know if that's going to change, so I won't say that. But I think saying next fall in a little over a year is safe enough.
Because remember, publishing moves at the same speed as tectonic plates.
Exactly. Crumpets and Such will be the name of my very next folk rock band, says Wired Duck.
We're Crumpets and Such. Welcome to the Tailor of Gloucester. Yes, that would work.
Dirt Butlers.
Who are you going to call? Dirt Butlers.
Murdering space, murdered by space, murder in space, ocean emotion. You're going to have to find out. You just got to get the book and find out.
Sorry about the rejections, Underpope.
Oh, no, we celebrate rejections, Alasdair.
Hey! Good job about the rejections, Underpope.
Rejections mean you're a working writer.
Damn right.
Yes, so well done, Underpope. And Underpope has got to be up to 70 submissions this year.
Wow.
I think. I'm guessing because you were at 60 last time you were at 60 something last time you mentioned. And so people are still on the English snacks. We got Clotted Cream coming in.
I once witnessed
65.
a near international incident between some friends from the Netherlands and some friends from the UK about whether you put the cream and then the jam on the scone, or whether you put the jam and then the cream on the scone.
You know, I'd laugh, but I have been taken to task for not eating Northern American food the right way, so I get it.
What would be what?
Well, you know, there are some sandwiches that are holy, and you don't do the Southern thing, like put mayonnaise on them.
Okay.
There's some things that require a certain sauce, and some things that don't require a certain. It's just, you know, then you got to wonder if you're staying true to the food or eating what you want, and it becomes a larger thing, especially when you take into account the fact that food is often a mark of familial or ethnic or location stamps.
This would be why once when I was in Italy, I offended a waiter so badly for asking for cheese with my fish dish that for the rest of the night he would serve other tables looking at me like this.
Meerkat fails at eating fish and chips the right way.
There is no wrong way to eat fish and chips. There is a wrong way to eat burgers, I learned, which was the way which I had done up until meeting the love of my life, which was dismantling them and eating one piece at a time.
Well, that's pretty much like steak, a pretty crappy salad, and a roll with dinner, so...
Yeah.
The Great Poutine Wars, chicken or beef gravy. I would love to know about the Great Poutine Wars, Lee. That sounds awesome. I'm told poutine. I have to put potato chips or crisps on my turkey sandwiches.
Yes, you do. I would argue you have to put crisps on most sandwiches.
I had to try to explain Cincinnati chili to someone today. All right, I don't remember what Cincinnati chili is. You might have to explain it to me. And Meerkat says Al is a monster.
I regret nothing.
How certain people eat Kit Kats. Hey, the kids are asleep. You mean like some break them apart and some just like bite into them like a barbarian?
This is that still from Twitter ages ago, isn't it? With like the bite mark through the 4-bar Kit Kat with "I choose violence" written under it.
Yes. Yeah, that's... But I mean, going back to the fact that we're talking about writing, even though we don't talk about craft on this show, Matt's not here to stop me.
Next on Dirt Butlers.
Next, when you're talking about... The food has so much power because of what I just said. It has... Food will immediately ground somebody in a scene or take them out of it. If you mention buffalo wings with Frank's hot sauce, that's grounding. If you mention you go to Buffalo, New York and eat like barbecue wings, that's not the dish that was born from that area. That's a different sauce, and it's little things like that are very important, and I think that's one of the little details that really makes your book sing. I mean,
Yeah.
if you're talking about, you can definitely ground a story in Iceland based on half the food we ate, which included, oh God.
Tell them of the orc butter.
I don't think I had the auk butter. I did have...
You all had the orc butter.
I don't remember the auk butter.
Okay, shall I do like a bit of context and then you bring it home?
Okay.
All right, so we're in Iceland. We're in Helsinki for Worldcon. And Mur, because Mur is a genius, goes, we are in a foreign country. Let's have a fancy meal. And we go, cool. So we are booked in at this fancy restaurant, and it is fancy.
That! I was not there
Yes!
for that. I was not there for the big one.
You had because you had to pick up Fiona, and you had like the second version of it.
Yes.
I think. Yes.
Yeah, she was sick. She got sick in Iceland, so...
Yeah. The least fancy thing about this meal was the individual sourdough loaf that proofed on the table for the first 3 hours.
Yeah.
Because there were 17 courses, and then was taken away and baked, and you could eat it with artisanal turnip butter, which was smeared for you on a piece of butcher paper, individually scrunched up by the restaurant staff member designated to look after you. This sounds like I'm making it up. I am not.
No.
This was also not the weirdest food available in Helsinki that week. That was a dead tie between the Tex-Mex and escargot Sons of Anarchy biker joint, which did surprisingly good tacos.
Okay.
And hand on a stack of Bibles, the dining table with the chef trapped in the middle of it like some kind of Benihana oubliette, raised 500 feet in the air. You were harnessed in, and someone would cook for you as you swayed precariously.
We looked at that and we just did not decide that was what we were going to spend our money on.
You, like me, looked at that and went, I could die in that thing.
Yep.
Maybe not.
Yeah. But you're mixing up Helsinki and Iceland. Because,
I am mixing up Helsinki and Finland and Iceland, yes.
Yeah, we went to Iceland and then we went on to Helsinki. And in Iceland we had things like rye bread ice cream. That sounds
amazing.
I mean, it's like I knew that we'd have like a lot of fish things and probably a lot of jelly things made from fish stock or something. And so there were like less appetizing local things, but the rye bread ice cream was the one that I went, what is this I'm eating? I don't understand this cold bread. Cold creamy bread, not a thing. And I can't even tell you it was bad or good. It just kind of broke my brain a little bit.
I love that.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
Yeah, but yes, I do remember the reindeer type steakhouse from Helsinki, as well as we did go back to the many many course restaurant on our last night there. Fiona was recovering. I think I was just ready to get sick with her cold, but I think we had the smaller meal at like 14 courses, and a lot of them were tiny courses. Like there's one that was just like a candied flower. It's a small candied flower. That's a whole course, so it's not like 14 spaghetti dishes. But
here's your fifth steak. Stop crying.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So but yeah, I remember we were all looking at a table near us, which had its little bread proofing, and no one came to sit at that table. And we just kept looking at the bread, going, someone's got to bake that. Someone's abandoned the bread. You need to cook the bread and give it to us. Let it fulfill its purpose in the world. But yes. Underpope says their Roomba's named Dirt Butler.
Nice.
Okay. Cincinnati chili is a layer of spaghetti, a layer of chili, not spicy, a layer of kidney beans, a layer of raw chopped onions, a metric ton of shredded cheese on top, served with oyster crackers and hot sauce. Strangely enough, my first question is, if you just make the chili spicy, you could skip the hot sauce. Like let's make it a little bit more efficient here.
Next on Dirt Butlers, optimizing food.
Yes, exactly. Ocean Emotion is not on board with the food in the air. I completely forgot about that one. Thank you for reminding me, because that's... yes, Numbers Ninja is saying the rye bread ice cream was very thick, like chewing ice cream. Yes. And
Nice.
Hey Bill, welcome in. Cold creamy bread sounds fun. It was, but it was interesting. Yeah. Reminded me of the mac and cheese ice cream, but the rye bread version sounds better. I draw the line with the mac and cheese ice cream, and I know I disappointed the love of your life, Alasdair. I know I disappointed her, but I gotta say, she and I are the people who like, Velveeta and nacho cheese sauce, and...
There is nothing wrong with Velveeta. Velveeta is life.
I'm pretty sure it's not life, but, anyway, we try to support each other in this terrible, terrible cheese eating. But she sent me the mac and cheese ice cream, and I can't. I draw the line at
you
no.
just can't.
Nope.
That's okay. I'll happily fall on that grenade.
Okay. Hey, Gamer Gramp. Engage food optimization protocols. Okay, so we are near the end of our time. Aside from food, is there anything else you wanted to touch on before we said goodbye, so I can take a break and then come back in an hour with I Should Be Writing? Let me say, do this. I overscheduled myself today, but it was worth it, because Alasdair can only... this is a good day for Alasdair to stream. And I'm doing my usual 3 o'clock I Should Be Writing. And then... tonight is Matt Wallace's book launch party, which is why I did not have Proof of Life this episode, because you'll see him tonight. So 7 o'clock Eastern Daylight Time, we're doing the launch party for Savage Bounty.
I almost want you to recruit each one of the Moxies in turn and just cut to them like, so Matt, welcome to the book launch. What? So Matt, welcome to the book launch. What? But then again, I'm also mildly worried that he'll have to journey the country with a katana and a motorbike, enduring all of us and reabsorbing his quickening.
Yeah. I didn't say anything about immortality when I emailed you to ask you to be part of this. Good to see you, Catwood. Thanks for dropping by. Sorry, Al?
Who wants to live forever?
True.
I'll just leave the Queen reference there. Thank you so much for having me on. The two things which I'd like to talk about. Sorry, I'm going a little bit corky there. Thank you very much for having me on. The two things I'd like to talk about. I've got the latest issue of The Full Ed, written by me, edited by Marguerite, will be out this Friday at 5 p.m. GMT or BST, which is British Sun Time right now, because it is so hot here. Oh God. And I think you have the link for that. And also, tomorrow night, we will be talking to Cassandra Core on our stream at 10 p.m. BST.
Excellent.
About all sorts of excellent and fun stuff.
I'm writing down the link to the full lid so I can remember to put it in the show notes. So
fantastic. I also have a whole bunch of links which I found when I was doing some research earlier this morning, which is kind of recommendations for stories about or genre fiction that touches on Brexit, or books about the pandemic, or books about the issue we didn't quite get to, which is immigration. And there's a couple of very good SF TV shows which really put that front and center. So there's going to be lots of nice chewy background reading for folks to get their teeth into.
Right. Excellent. Thank you for doing
No
all that.
problem at all.
If you want to learn more about the Ditch Diggers, either me or the guests, Merverse.com is where you can find the blog and show notes, and you can subscribe, or I guess they're calling it follow now. You follow the podcast there, or wherever.
The cool kids follow now.
Yeah. So, or wherever podcasts are, you can probably search for my name or Ditch Diggers to get there. If you want to keep the lights on, you can support me via Patreon, or buy me a coffee, or you can support at Jemmy, which will get you either membership into the other two things, or you can buy a pep talk, a personalized pep talk for you or the writer in your life. And
those pep talks are great.
Thank you, Alasdair.
It's true.
And I think that is everything I usually say. I guess we'll do our usual DM Jazzy Hands raid, because Jazzy is just so much fun.
Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Dirt Butlers. Join us next week when we talk to the Queen about how long it has taken to successfully whittle a replacement William Shakespeare from butter.
When Al gets on a roll, it's really hard to follow him. Thank you for being part of Dirt Butlers.
Thank you for having me be part of Dirt Butlers. Were you there for, I think, the thing in Spokane where Wallace looked across the street at a restaurant called Luigi's and went, "What do you know about that?" And I went, "Well, I mean, it's good. The waiters are all tall and have moustaches, and they have green overalls, and all of them have much more successful, shorter, younger brothers who wear red overalls. And it's really difficult for them because they do all the work, but the brothers get all the credit." And he looked at me for a really long time and just went, "What is wrong with you?" And I was like, "I don't know."
Yeah, it sounds about right. Anyway, folks, I hope I see you again, and I should be writing in about an hour. And the launch party tonight. Alasdair, thank you so much for being not
Thank
Matt
you for having me on.
or our Matt or whatever. And talk to you sometime soon.
You will. Bye, everybody.
You can support us at patreon.com/mightymur.
Ditch Diggers!
Theme song by Devo Spice. DevoSpice.com.